Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Early morning again. More surprises in store as life provides. Starting this morning in September 1959, Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I have been accepted into law school. Mary Jo has joined me from the hospital in Los Angeles, UCLA. Her mother is with us, and I am starting my first week at the law school. And it's an interesting week. Interesting 2 weeks. Interesting 3 weeks. Interesting in that I am coming to the conclusion that the study of torts, contracts, which are our primary objective as we start in this law school curriculum, are not where my interest lies at all. It's not in the problems of property. It's not in acquisition. It's not in people's problems among themselves. It's not there. And suddenly something totally unexpected comes into view. It is the offer of fellowships from the National Defense Education Act, something I had never heard of, was new at the time, but the U.S. government is providing scholarship, fellowship funds to study specialty areas throughout the world, one of them being Latin America. And that interests me. Would it be possible for me to obtain one of those fellowships, which, if I did, would allow me to work on a doctor's degree, a doctorate in Ibero-American Studies, which equivalent of Latin American Studies, for a 3-year period, all expenses paid, that is, tuition paid, and living expenses provided for the family. And my family has become substantial. Mary Jo is about ready to give birth to our third child, Judy. This is something to be considered. And if I accepted this, if I qualified for it, I would study Latin American history from the colonial period up through the modern period. I would study political systems, politics of the area, Spanish government right on through to the present day. I would study the literature of Latin America, the major poets, writers in Latin America, and not only in Latin America, but in Spain and in Portugal. And would also be studying the history of the Portuguese in their dominions in India, and the Spanish as well. All of this here at the University of New Mexico. They're providing, as I recall, something like 10 of these fellowships to qualified people. And who would qualify? People with a strong interest in Latin America. Well, I've already demonstrated that. I have 2 years living in Uruguay as a missionary for the LDS Church. I have 2 years living in Guatemala, where I worked and studied. And so I apply. And I'm accepted. So goodbye law school. and totally unexpected, move into this, well, maybe not totally unexpected, but pretty much unexpected, move into this new area. And it's a challenge, great interest. And I also have to learn, in addition, another language. Portuguese is required. So I'll be studying Portuguese as well as the Spanish, which I already pretty much have. So that's the direction it takes. However, during the 3 weeks that I'm in law school, I'm provided an opportunity to earn some money working as a probation officer for the municipal court of the city of Albuquerque. They provide these to law students so that upon acceptance of the fellowship from the N.D.E.A, the question is whether I would continue as a probation officer, for which I've been working 2 or 3 weeks already. And the judge says, yes, I'd like to keep him on. And so they decide that even though I've changed from the law school over to this other area, I will continue to work as a probation officer for the city. And in that capacity, my Spanish comes into play because many of the probationers, those who appear in court, are of Spanish, Mexican, New Mexican, mostly New Mexican descent, from the Spanish heritage, and speak Spanish. Their families speak Spanish, so, and they're there for a variety of reasons, found guilty of common kinds of legal problems. And I work with them individually, and sometimes they're in their homes working with them too. So I enjoy that part of it very much, working directly with people in that capacity. Something very interesting is happening at the national level. John F. Kennedy, President of the United States, taking an interest in the United States beginning to be more helpful in other areas of the world, not just for our own economic interests, but in a helpful capacity. And his famous statement, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country," is resonating throughout the country, among young people especially. And in a convention, a meeting of young people, representatives throughout the United States, is going to be held in Washington, D.C. to determine what might be done, in what ways the young people of the United States could serve. And out of this will grow the Peace Corps of the government of the United States as one of the areas of effort. And meanwhile, in New Mexico, now that I am involved in this Latin American area with other students who are there with the same objective, we take an interest in how we as a group, excuse me, those of us who have received these fellowships can participate in this process, because University of New Mexico is unique in that it has a common heritage tracing back to Mexico, to Latin America. That's where its origins are from. There long before the whites, the Blancos, moved into the region. And the university reflects that. And so what can we do as a university to participate in this process? And a group of us of those who have this Latin American interest, form what we call the Latin American Desk, as a recognized organization within the university. And the purpose is to enhance and promote things pertaining to Latin America, Spanish, all of these things that we are going to be involved in our graduate studies here at the university. And I'm elected as president of this organization the Latin American desk. And one of the things which we decide is we want to get more Latin American students, provide scholarships for worthy Latin American students to come to New Mexico to study. As one of the objectives, we began to publish articles in the student newspaper, El Lobo, the wolf, pertaining to Latin American concerns, problems that are going on. I'm involved in doing that, writing some of the editorials that go into the newspaper. And then we make a decision that what we would like to do is to help promote University of New Mexico as a major training ground for Peace Corps volunteers going to Latin America. Could we do that? Would that be a possibility? And we prevail upon the university, and the university provides funds for 2 delegates to attend the national convention that's going to be held in Washington, D.C., and to work to get Congress to provide funds for the establishment of a training center for the Peace Corps at the University of New Mexico. Pretty heady stuff as we get into that, but we're promoting what we are working in. It all fits together like a glove, and the university says yes, we will pay for 2 students to go back to Washington, D.C. to attempt to accomplish these objectives. Well, the 2 students that are chosen one is the editor of the student newspaper, Mark Acuff, and the other is the president of the Latin American desk, Wes Craig. And so the 2 of us take off to go back to Washington to accomplish these objectives. So Mark and I are off to Washington, D.C. to attend the National Conference on Youth Service Abroad, held March 29th through 31st, 1962, at the American University in Washington, D.C. And during that week, we visit as lobbyists for the university, government agencies, starting at the top and working right on down through all sorts of levels, attempting to obtain our objectives of getting student scholarships, obtaining a training base at the University of New Mexico, and doing what we can to promote things. I have never since worked as a lobbyist, but it is a fascinating experience meeting with these government officials who represent the different agencies and departments and throughout the government in that capacity. Well, we accomplish our objectives. Surprisingly and interestingly, we are able to obtain 20 scholarships from the International Institute of Education for the University of New Mexico to bring students from Latin America to the University of New Mexico. And we are successful in getting the university designated as the first Peace Corps training base to prepare Peace Corps volunteers to work in Latin America. Something like $1.5 million is provided by Congress for that purpose. So that was a very, very interesting experience. Another interesting and enjoyable experience during that period was serving as an instructor in our ward seminary program, meeting with about 20 students every morning. I think it was from 6 to 7, as I recall, teaching them about the gospel, and very rewarding. And years later, some 15 years later after that teaching experience, Mary Jo and I returned on our way down to Guatemala again, and were able to meet with a number of those students, now married, families, and what a rewarding reunion that was with these students that I taught for a period of about 2 years there. Oh.
Hey, this picture was taken in front of the church there in Albuquerque, and pregnant with Steve there. And this in front of our...
Don't stop it. You just have to...
It went...
Go.
This is our front yard in Albuquerque. I think I'm just beginning to be pregnant with Steve there. But aren't those beautiful children?
This photo was taken in our backyard there in Albuquerque. I'm in the Coast Guard Reserve. I've enlisted just as a reserve officer. Got a commission as a Lieutenant JG to make some extra money.
Hey, this is our family at the zoo.
Go.
In Albuquerque. Jude and Steve were both born in Albuquerque.
So this concludes our New Mexico experience, and from here it's on to Cornell University, Ithaca, New York, and we'll tell you how that happens and what happens while we're there in next video.